Whether you are an English language learner just starting out, or you're simply stepping into a brand new social setting, maybe a new job, a new neighborhood,
Hmm?
or even just a dinner party where you don't know the host, there is one phrase that you are absolutely guaranteed to hear.
Oh, without a doubt. It's inevitable.
Right. And it is wild how these four little words
Hmm.
can be simultaneously the most exciting and, well, the most paralyzing, intimidating question in the entire human experience. Four words. Tell me about yourself.
It really is the ultimate conversational wild card, isn't it?
Completely.
I mean, it is so completely open-ended that it can induce a very real fight-or-flight panic response. And that happens even in incredibly eloquent native speakers. Your brain suddenly has to, sort through a massive database of your entire life in about 2 seconds.
Exactly. It's like someone walking up to you in a restaurant and handing you a massive encyclopedic menu to your own personality.
Yeah, your whole history,
Right. Your history, your traumas, your achievements, and saying, okay, order something.
which is terrifying.
It is. You're standing there freezing, thinking, do I start with my childhood? Do I talk about my job? Do I mention that I have an unnatural, deeply weird obsession with reality television?
Right, what is the actual correct answer here?
But here's the secret we are going to unlock today. The fact that this question has absolutely no boundaries is exactly what makes it a massive strategic opportunity for you.
That is a really brilliant way to frame it. I mean, an introduction is not, and never should be, a chronological summary of your existence from birth to this exact moment.
Someone wants to hear that anyway.
Exactly. As the source text we are diving into today beautifully puts it, it's not a scary test with a pass or fail grade. It is simply an invitation to share a little bit about you.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a highly curated snapshot of your identity in that specific moment, for that specific room.
An invitation. I just love the warmth of that word. And today we have the most perfect, unexpected source material to help us and help you listening accept that invitation with absolute confidence.
It's a really great source.
It really is.
Mhm.
We are looking at a highly practical transcript from a YouTube video called Learn How to Talk About Yourself in English. It was created by the Mr. English channel.
Right.
And it features this really charming, natural conversation between two characters. There's Emily, who's an art student, and Paul, who is an English teacher.
And what's going to surprise a lot of people is that we are using an English as a second language, an ESL video as our foundation today.
Yeah, I was surprised at first, too.
But there is a very specific strategic reason for that.
Right, because my first thought was, wait, an ESL video is the secret to high-level networking and adult social dynamics. Really?
Absolutely. Because it is a brilliant sociological artifact. Think about it. As native speakers or as adults in complex professional environments, we tend to overcomplicate our introductions.
We really do.
We hide behind thick jargon, we let our egos take the wheel, and we construct these impenetrable walls of abstract concepts when we talk about ourselves.
All those buzzwords, synergy and bandwidth and all that.
Exactly. But this source material, because it is designed for beginners, it strips human connection all the way down to its rawest, most fundamental social mechanics.
So it takes away the fluff.
It removes the ego entirely and leaves only the structural framework of how two human beings actually build a bridge between each other.
Okay, let's really unpack this. We're going to treat this interaction between Emily and Paul not just as a grammar lesson, but as a masterclass in the psychology of connection.
It's a step-by-step guide.
Yes, our mission for this deep dive is to extract a step-by-step guide from their dialogue to help you, the listener, confidently introduce yourself in any new social situation.
So we're going to break down the vocabulary.
Right. We're going to look at the linguistic mechanics of why certain phrases make people like you more, and we are going to build out full conversational role plays.
And we are going to do this by really analyzing the why and the how, not just the what.
Yeah.
Like, why does sharing a mundane detail about your apartment actually make you more charismatic? How do you use a pet to secretly broadcast your core moral values to a stranger?
Yes. So let's jump right into the ground floor. Before we can start sharing our deep passions, our philosophies on life, or our favorite movies, we have to establish baseline contact.
The absolute basics.
Right. Let's look at the absolute foundation of introductions: greetings, names, and environments.
If a conversation is a house, this is the concrete being poured. You cannot build the walls, let alone decorate the living room, until this concrete is completely solid and dry.
I like that analogy. So let's look at how Emily and Paul model these simple greetings in the source. It is incredibly smooth.
Very natural.
They start with conversational dialogue like, "Hello, everyone. How are you today?" And the
Mm.
classic response, "I'm doing great. Thank you and you."
And of course, the absolute must-have anchor phrase, nice to meet you.
Let's pause right there on the mechanics of how are you today,
Mm.
because there is a rhythm to this that is crucial.
Oh, absolutely. Especially if you are an English language learner, this is so important to grasp. But honestly, it applies to native speakers who just want to sound more approachable too.
Let's give some pronunciation tips for these common greeting phrases.
Yeah, when we say, how are you today, native speakers rarely enunciate every single syllable as a distinct island. They link the words together.
Right, it's not robotic.
No, it flows almost like one long word. How are you today? The stress typically falls on the R or the U. How are you today? Or how are you today?
It has a melody to it. Think about how you say it in your own day-to-day life. If you walk into a coffee shop and say, "How are you today?" with a flat intonation, the barista is going to think you are angry.
Or worse, an android.
Exactly. But if you give it that slight lilt, that musicality, it instantly disarms the other person.
Let's actually turn this into an interactive speaking drill for common greeting phrases right now.
Oh, I love this.
If you are listening, I want you to try this. We're going to practice that linked melody. I'll say it flat first, and then I want you to try saying it smoothly out loud wherever you are. Ready?
Go for it.
Flat is, how are you today? Now try linking it. How are you today?
How are you today?
Exactly. And the response in the text, I'm doing great, thank you, and you. Notice the upward inflection at the end on the phrase, and you.
Why is that upward inflection so important?
Linguistically, an upward inflection does something very specific to the listener's brain. It triggers a response mandate.
A response mandate. Okay, explain that.
It signals that you are physically passing the conversational ball back into their court. If you drop your pitch at the end, if you just say, and you, with a flat voice, it sounds like a closed statement.
And the conversation just dies right there on the floor.
Right. It sounds so simple, but getting that melody right is the difference between an awkward silence and a flowing dialogue.
And then right after the greeting, there's the exchange of names. In the source, Paul doesn't just say his name, he explicitly spells it out. He says, "My name is Paul, P-A-U-L."
Now, this is a fascinating strategy that adults rarely use unless prompted, but they absolutely should. Why do you think he spells it out?
I mean, on a practical level, it's an English learning video, so they're teaching the alphabet, but in a real-world setting. Maybe because coffee shops and networking events are loud.
That's a huge part of it. Auditory processing in new, noisy environments is incredibly difficult.
Yeah, I'm always asking people to repeat their names.
But on a psychological level, spelling your name out loud does two things. First, it shows immense consideration for the listener.
Oh, that makes sense.
You are saving them the embarrassment of having to say, I'm sorry, what was that, 3 times over the loud music?
Yeah.
Second, and more importantly, it projects a quiet, grounded confidence.
How so? How does spelling your name make you confident?
When you spell your name, you are forcing the conversation to slow down for just a second. You are taking up acoustic space.
Taking up acoustic space.
Yeah, you are essentially saying, my identity matters enough in this interaction that I want to ensure you have it exactly right. It asserts your presence in the room without being arrogant.
That is such a powerful reframe. I want everyone listening to think about that the next time they are at a loud conference. Don't just mumble your name and hope they caught it. Claim the space.
Slow down.
My name is Host, H-O-S-T. It feels totally different in your mouth when you do it.
It creates immediate clarity. Let's make this another quick drill. If you're listening, vocalize your own name right now and then spell it out loud. Seriously, try it.
Just say it to your dashboard or your kitchen sink right now. Hi, my name is John, J-O-H-N.
It really builds that muscle memory. Now, once names are established, Emily and Paul immediately move to 2 foundational demographic questions. Where are you from? And where do you live?
Let's look at the specific examples from the text, because they are a study in contrasts.
Mm.
Paul says he is from Canada, but he lives in a small, quiet town in a small house with a garden.
Right.
And Emily says she's from the United States, but she lives in a big, noisy, busy city in a small but nice apartment.
Now, let's look at the sociological context here. Why is location almost always the first building block of an introduction right after your name? Before occupation, before hobbies, before anything else.
Because it's a safe topic. It's just geography.
Partially safe, yes. But more deeply, discussing physical environments naturally opens the door to using descriptive adjectives that reveal your sensory reality.
Oh, like the words busy, noisy, quiet, big, small.
Exactly. By describing your environment, you are giving the other person an immediate, tangible sense of your daily life. You are inviting them to visualize the physical space where you wake up every morning.
Okay, I have to push back on this quite a bit. Let's look at Emily. She says, I live in a small apartment. If I'm at a professional mixer, or even on a first date, why on earth would I tell a stranger that my apartment is small?
You feel like it's too mundane.
Yeah, doesn't that sound either a bit mundane or worse, like a weird, self-deprecating humble brag? Is that really the most interesting detail to offer up on our menu of personality?
I completely understand why you'd feel that way, because we are conditioned to treat introductions like marketing pitches. We want to sound grand and impressive.
Right, I want to sound successful.
But if you only talk about grand, abstract concepts, your prestigious job title, your grand ambitions, you become an avatar, not a human. You seem untouchable.
So the small apartment makes her touchable.
It makes her relatable. It grounds her in reality. When Emily says she lives in a small but nice apartment, she becomes a real, three-dimensional person navigating the world just like we are.
I guess that's true.
Almost everyone can relate to the experience of trying to make a small, cramped space feel nice. It's a universally human endeavor. By offering a slightly mundane, vulnerable detail, she instantly lowers the social armor of the person she's talking to.
That is fascinating. So vulnerability isn't just about sharing your deepest secrets. It can be as simple as admitting your living room is tiny.
Precisely. It creates a shared visual reality. And notice the grammatical structure they use here, which is perfectly calibrated for clarity, especially if you're an English language learner.
What's the structure?
It is essentially subject plus verb plus preposition plus adjective plus noun. I live in a quiet town. I live in a busy city. It is remarkably efficient.
Think about your own living space right now as you're listening to this. What is your instinct? Are you instinctively trying to make it sound grander than it is?
Probably.
What if instead you leaned into the sensory reality of it? I live in a drafty old house in the suburbs. Or I live in a loud apartment right above a train station. Notice how that instantly gives someone a much richer, more colorful hook to grab onto than just saying, I live in Chicago.
And notice the brilliant use of contrast in the source material. Contrast is the engine of any good conversation.
Oh, like Canada versus the United States.
Exactly. Small, quiet town versus big, noisy city. Contrast gives the brain something to process and question. If you say, I live in a big, noisy city, it naturally breeds follow-up questions from someone who lives in a quiet town.
The friction between your two realities becomes the fuel for the conversation.
Yes.
Okay, so we have laid the concrete, we've mapped the physical space and claimed our acoustic presence with our names. Logically, the conversation now steps inward. We move to establishing who we are on a demographic and professional level.
The walls of the house.
Right. This is where the source text gets into age, occupation, and what I like to call the student persona. First, they bring up age. Paul mentions he is 28 and Emily is 25. But what really caught my eye in the transcript is how Paul approaches asking this question.
It's very subtle.
He doesn't just blurt out, how old are you? He says, how old are you, Paul? If you want to say, of course it's okay. He offers this very deliberate, polite caveat.
That caveat is a vital piece of polite social cueing. It signals openness and respect, and it's something that often gets lost in translation, both literally for language learners and figuratively for people who are just bad at networking.
Why is this so important?
In many English-speaking cultures and Western cultures in general, asking someone's age directly can be perceived as slightly intrusive or even aggressive, particularly in professional settings or when speaking with older adults. It carries a lot of unnecessary social friction.
Because age is tied to status and expectation.
Exactly. Paul acknowledges that friction gracefully by giving Emily a social out. By saying, if you want to say, of course, it's okay, he makes the answering of the question entirely optional. He removes the pressure.
It's a fantastic tactic to put in your conversational toolkit. Whenever you are asking a demographic question that might cross the line, age, marital status, hometown, soften it.
Give an example.
Like if you don't mind me asking, how long have you lived here? Or if you want to share, I'd love to know what industry you're in. It shows that you respect their boundaries before they even have to set them.
And that respect builds immediate trust. But then Emily and Paul move to the absolute juggernaut of introductions, the big one. The question that defines so much of how adults interact: what do you do?
The dreaded resume question. In the source, Paul proudly states he is an English teacher who loves his job. Emily introduces herself using this very specific structure. She says, I am a student. I study art. I love to draw and paint.
Now, we need to talk about why this question, what do you do, carries so much weight. In many Western cultures, we have deeply entangled our personal identity with our labor output.
We really have.
We use someone's profession as a rapid-fire sorting mechanism to figure out their socioeconomic status, their education level, and their general worldview, all in about 5 seconds.
Which is incredibly unfair, but we all do it.
We do. And because of that weight, how you answer this question is a massive strategic choice. Let's look closely at Emily's formula. She doesn't just say, I'm an art student, and stop talking.
Right.
She breaks it into 3 distinct beats: the title, the subject, and the action. I am a student. I study art. I love to draw and paint.
Okay, hold on. I see the formula. I am blank. I study blank. I love to action. Let's model a mock conversation where I practice introducing myself as a student using this formula.
Okay, let's hear it.
So say I study finance. If someone asks what I do, and I say, I'm a student. I study business. I love to learn about markets.
What's wrong with that?
I'm sorry, but I sound like a robot that just swallowed a corporate brochure. I'm not saying that to a human being at a party. It's way too stiff.
Well, you shouldn't say it in a monotone voice. But you're confusing the structural scaffolding with the final performance. The formula Emily uses isn't meant to be recited like a pledge of allegiance. It is a psychological framework. Let's look at the mechanics of why that scaffolding works so brilliantly. It's about what conversationalists call building a bridge.
A conversational bridge. Okay, explain the mechanics of that.
When someone asks, what do you do? And you just give a one-word noun, I'm an accountant or I'm a student, you are essentially throwing a brick at them.
A brick.
Yes. You've answered the question, but you've given them nothing to work with. They have to scramble to figure out what to ask next. Like, do you like numbers? It's painful.
Right. You've put all the conversational labor back on them.
Exactly. But when Emily adds the action verb, I love to draw and paint, she isn't just telling Paul her major. She is constructing a bridge and inviting him to walk across it. The action verb is the bridge.
Oh, I see.
She is volunteering the exact material she wants him to ask about. And look what happens in the text. It naturally prompts Paul to ask the follow-up. Do you like your studies? The information you volunteer entirely dictates the questions you will receive.
I totally get that now. You are reverse engineering the conversation. If I am an accountant, and I say I'm an accountant, I mostly help small bakeries figure out their taxes, I have just built a bridge about bakeries, not about tax law.
Precisely. The follow-up is naturally going to be, do you get free pastries?
Yep.
Or why bakeries? You have successfully steered the conversation away from boring tax law and into a fun sensory topic simply by adding an action clause to your title. You are setting the direction of the chat.
That is such a high-level networking hack hidden in a beginner English video. Don't just give the noun, give the verb. Give the action of what you do, because the action is what people can actually connect with.
It's universally applicable.
Think about how you describe your own job. Are you throwing bricks or are you building bridges?
It completely changes the dynamic from a polite interrogation into a collaborative storytelling exercise.
This brings us to a fascinating shift in the source material. We've covered the personal demographics, where we live, what we do. Now, Emily and Paul move their focus outward to their immediate external circle.
Right, broadening the circle.
We start talking about family, pets, and they use this incredibly rich list of personality adjectives.
This transition is where an introduction moves from being a flat, black and white resume to a full-color portrait. Discussing the people and the animals we surround ourselves with is actually a brilliant backdoor psychological method for revealing our own personality traits without ever having to brag or sound self-absorbed.
Let's look at how they do it with family structures first. The text maps it out clearly. Emily has an older brother named Tom, who is 29. Paul has a younger sister named Sarah, who is a music student and plays the piano.
Notice the very natural use of comparative adjectives here: older, younger. In terms of linguistic mechanics, introducing a sibling is a great way to establish your place in a hierarchy, which is something human brains are wired to track.
And then they expand to their parents' occupations, which adds so much texture to the conversation. Paul mentions his mother is a writer and his father's a doctor. Emily shares that her mother is a teacher of little children and her father is a restaurant chef who cooks delicious food at home.
Now, if we adjust the tone specifically for an English language learner for a second, from a language acquisition standpoint, this broadens the vocabulary significantly because you are pivoting from the first person to the third person.
Oh, like going from I to he or she.
Exactly. You aren't just talking about your own job anymore. You are practicing the syntax for describing others. My mother is a geese. He works as a hay. But socially, sharing your parents' professions gives the listener a massive amount of context about the environment you were raised in.
It provides clues about your values and your background without you having to explicitly spell it out.
It does.
But where this gets really deeply interesting is when they move from humans to animals. The great pet debate. Cats versus dogs. I absolutely love this part of the transcript because the enthusiasm just jumps off the page.
It's very relatable.
Paul talks about his dog Max, who he explicitly describes as a small, brown, happy dog. Emily counters with her cat Luna, who is black and white and very sleepy.
What is truly remarkable here is the specific vocabulary list of common personality adjectives they naturally weave into these animal descriptions. Let's look at the exact words they use, because this is absolute gold for understanding human connection.
I've got the list right here. Throughout this section, they use the words friendly, funny, quiet, sleepy, elegant, independent, loyal, creative, and active.
Now I want everyone listening to think about those words for a second. Friendly, funny, quiet, sleepy, elegant, independent, loyal, creative, active. Which of those words do you immediately gravitate towards? Which ones make you recoil a bit?
I mean, I definitely lean towards creative and active. If someone calls themselves elegant, I feel like I'm severely underdressed for the conversation.
Right. And here is the profound psychological insight behind this section of the source material. When Emily calls cats elegant and independent, and when Paul calls dogs loyal and friendly, they're ostensibly talking about their pets.
Ostensibly.
But psychologically, they are engaging in what we call value signaling. They are vocalizing the personality traits that they personally value and relate to the most.
Wait, really? So when I corner someone at a party and talk for 10 minutes about how I love golden retrievers because they're just so unconditionally goofy and loyal, I am secretly telling that person that I value goofiness and loyalty in myself.
100%. We project our idealized traits onto our pets. It is a highly effective, low-pressure way to share your core moral and social values with a complete stranger.
Because doing it directly is weird.
Think about how jarring it would be if Paul walked up to Emily and said, "Hi, I'm Paul, and my core personal values are loyalty, friendliness, and high-energy activity."
Yeah, if someone said that to me, I would slowly back away and look for the nearest exit. It sounds like a cult initiation. Hi, I'm Emily, and I consider myself highly elegant and fiercely independent. It's just way too intense for a first meeting.
Exactly. It's socially inappropriate to be that intensely self-analytical right out of the gate. But filtering those exact same values through a discussion about a dog or a cat makes it charming, accessible, and completely safe. It creates a safe space for value signaling.
That is mind-blowing. It's like a conversational Trojan horse. You're bringing in this cute story about a cat, but hidden inside are all your deepest psychological preferences.
And it immediately establishes compatibility and rhythm. If you are a high-energy, active dog person who values loyalty, and I am a quiet, sleepy cat person who values independence, we instantly understand our different social metabolisms.
You know exactly where you stand.
We know exactly where the boundaries are without ever having to suffer the friction of a direct conflict. It is a masterclass in subtle social navigation.
Let's do some interactive drills for vocalizing common personality traits right now. I want you to get comfortable saying these words.
A good idea.
I'm going to say 3 traits, and if you're listening, repeat the one that sounds most like you. Ready? Independent, loyal, creative.
That's a great drill. Vocalizing it helps you own that identity in a conversation.
I am never going to look at someone showing me pictures of their dog on their phone the same way again. They are just showing me their own psychological mirror.
That's all it is.
All right, moving on. We've covered family and pets. Now we transition into sharing passions. We are moving from passive descriptors, like who we are related to active choices, hobbies, food, and the critical art of the follow-up question.
The things we actively choose to consume, to eat, and to do for fun with our limited free time are the most vibrant, revealing colors we can put out there during an introduction.
Let's start with the food and color examples from the text, because they are wonderfully specific. Paul says he likes the color blue, but he adds, like the sky. Emily likes green, like nature and grass.
And then for food.
For food, Paul chooses pizza. But he doesn't just say pizza. He specifies vegetable pizza with tomatoes, peppers, and onions. Emily counters that she likes classic pepperoni, but her absolute #1 favorite food in the world is pasta.
I want to draw attention to the linguistic mechanics of what they're doing here because it is crucial for both language learners and native speakers.
Mm.
Notice how they rarely just drop a naked noun into the conversation.
A naked noun.
Right, they don't just say blue. They add a descriptive sensory clause, blue, like the sky, green, like the grass, vegetable pizza with tomatoes and peppers.
Why does that matter so much? Does it really change the conversation if I just say, I like pizza?
It changes everything about the cognitive load on the listener. When you say, I like pizza, the listener's brain just files away a generic, flat fact.
Okay.
But when you stretch your sentences with these small sensory descriptive additions, you force the listener's brain to actually visualize the object. You are making them taste the tomatoes and peppers. You are making them see the sky. Sensory language triggers different parts of the brain, making your English sound much more fluent, expressive, and memorable.
That makes total sense. You are painting a picture, not just handing them a list of ingredients.
Yeah.
Let's look at how they apply this to phrases for hobbies, because knowing how to express what you do for fun is a make-or-break moment in an introduction. The source text gives us some very clear, mathematically reliable formulas.
Yes, let's break down the phrasing because having these templates memorized relieves a lot of the anxiety of introducing yourself. First, you can use a gerund noun format. My hobby is painting, or my hobby is reading.
Or you can use an infinitive verb format. I love to relax. I love to draw. I love to laugh.
Or, for maximum engagement, you can use an action anchored to a specific time and place. I play soccer with my friends on Saturdays.
Think about the last time someone asked you what your hobbies are. Did you freeze? Did you panic and say, I like hanging out with my friends, which means absolutely nothing?
That's the worst answer.
It is. Next time, try using that third formula. Anchor it. Instead of saying, I'm a runner, try saying, I love to run the trails by the river on Sunday mornings. Notice how anchoring it gives the listener so much more texture.
The source material also mentions specific hobbies like reading adventure storybooks, listening to old rock music, and watching comedy and animated movies. But what makes this section of the text so dynamic isn't just the specific hobbies they list, it's the conversational loops they use to ensure the chat doesn't hit a dead end.
The follow-up questions. If you want to keep a conversation alive, if you want to be known as someone who is charismatic and easy to talk to, you have to memorize these loops. Let's add a list of follow-up questions to keep conversations going right now.
Let's extract them directly from their dialogue. These are essential tools for interacting with strangers. The key principle here is, when someone mentions a broad category, you must ask a question that narrows it down.
Give me some examples.
What kind of pizza do you like? What kind of books do you read? What kind of music do you listen to?
That phrase, what kind of, is the most valuable tool in your belt. It proves to the other person that you are actually listening to their broad statement, and it validates them by asking for more detail.
It shows you care.
And of course, the text models the ultimate connector, the easiest, most effective question in the English language. What about you? Or simply, and you.
What about you? Is the conversational equivalent of passing the baton in a relay race. You have run your leg of the race, you've shared your piece of information, and now you hand the momentum over seamlessly. It prevents you from monologuing.
I always like to think of sharing a hobby or a favorite food like throwing out friendly conversational fishing lines. You are standing on the dock of the conversation, you cast out a line by saying, I really like old rock music, and you just wait to see if the other person bites.
And if they don't bite?
If they just say, oh, nice, and stare at you, and the conversation dies, it means they didn't bite. They don't care about old rock music, and that is fine. You just reel that line back in, you cast out a new one. I also make a really mean vegetable pizza.
And then?
Suddenly their eyes light up and they say, oh my gosh, I love pizza, but I strictly only eat pepperoni. Bam! They bit the line. You have a shared topic. You have a conversation.
That analogy of casting multiple lines until you find a shared point of resonance is exactly how adult networking operates. An introduction is just a rapid-fire testing of different hooks, location, job, hobbies, pets, until you find the one that the other person can grab onto.
Which perfectly sets up the next major phase of the source material, the power of contrast. We have spent all this time talking about what makes us happy, our favorite things, our pets, our positive values. But then the text introduces a really surprising, counterintuitive twist. They start talking about what they don't like.
This is the moment where a flat, overly polite character suddenly becomes a three-dimensional human being. Expressing mild dislikes introduces the element of contrast.
The examples from Paul and Emily are so relatable. Paul mentions that he absolutely hates the taste of olives. Emily says she avoids very spicy, hot food. Then they move on from food to activities. Neither of them likes waiting in long lines, and Emily specifically points out that she doesn't like waking up very early because she is simply not a morning person.
Now, if you are learning English, expressing dislikes requires a slight shift in grammar. Let's do some simple grammar exercises focused on describing likes and dislikes right now.
Yes, let's break it down.
The source models this perfectly. When describing dislikes with nouns, the structure is I do not like noun, or the contraction I don't like noun, as in I don't like olives, or I don't like spicy food.
Okay, what about activities?
When we talk about activities, we must use the infinitive verb. The formula is I don't like to verb.
I don't like to wait in long lines. I don't like to wake up early. It's a very subtle grammatical difference, but saying I don't like wait in lines sounds immediately off to a native ear. That little "to" is the hinge the sentence swings on.
Let's do a drill. I want you to say it out loud. First, a noun. Say, I don't like olives.
I don't like olives.
Now an activity. Say, I don't like to wait.
I don't like to wait.
Perfect.
But grammar aside, I want to dig into the sociology of this. Why on earth would a guide on how to introduce yourself tell you to include things you hate? Shouldn't the goal of an introduction be to remain as positive and pleasant as possible to make a good impression?
It is completely logical that you would think that. The instinct is to polish ourselves until we shine. But the reality is that relentless, unbroken positivity can actually feel highly artificial and suspicious to the human brain.
We don't trust the always happy person.
Exactly. Commiserating over universally boring or slightly annoying things like waiting in long lines at the DMV or sitting in traffic instantly bonds two strangers. In sociology and evolutionary psychology, this is known as a pro-social complaint.
A pro-social complaint. That is an amazing oxymoron. How does complaining make you more social?
It works because it rapidly creates an us versus them dynamic where the them is the annoying situation, not another person. When Emily says she hates waiting in lines and Paul wholeheartedly agrees, they are suddenly no longer two awkward strangers trying to impress each other. They are a united team standing shoulder to shoulder against the abstract concept of long lines.
Wow. So by identifying a common enemy, even a tiny one like an olive, you fast-track intimacy.
Exactly. It shows personality, it shows vulnerability, and it asserts a sense of shared humanity, all without ever crossing the line into toxic negativity or gossiping.
Because gossiping is a red flag.
Right. Complaining about a specific coworker is toxic negativity. Bonding over a mutual hatred of olives or the misery of waking up at 5 a.m. is safe, relatable, pro-social friction.
That makes total sense. If I am at a stiff corporate dinner and I turn to the person next to me and say, I have to admit, I absolutely hate networking events like this, 99% of the time they're going to physically relax, laugh, and say, oh my gosh, me too, I'd rather be on my couch. We just bonded over the shared misery of the event.
You've created a micro-alliance.
Okay, this is incredible. We have built up all the individual pieces. We have the concrete foundation, the walls, the colorful decorations of our hobbies, and the contrast of our dislikes.
Yeah.
Now, it is time for putting it all together.
The synthesis.
Yes, this is where we synthesize all these separate theoretical building blocks into cohesive, real-world, situation-specific introductions.
The absolute most important piece of advice the source material provides in the synthesis stage is a very simple warning. You don't need to say everything at one time.
Thank goodness. Because if I walked up to someone at a party and without taking a breath, listed my name, my age, my address, my family tree, my pet's personality traits, my favorite color, my preferred pizza topping, and my intense hatred of olives, they would literally run away from me.
They would assume you are having a breakdown. An introduction is deeply contextual. You do not hand the person the entire menu. You read the room, and you select only the specific pieces of your identity that fit the context of that exact environment.
To help visualize this, let's pull together a checklist of 5 key phrases for beginners to use daily, based on Emily and Paul's dialogue. If you are a beginner, or if you just get nervous meeting people, memorize these 5 structures. They will cover you in 90% of all human interactions.
Let's hear the checklist.
Number 1, name. Hi, my name is Name. Number 2, origin and living situation. I am from place, but I live in place. Number 3, job or age. I am a job or student. Number 4, hobbies. I love the hobby. And number 5, likes and dislikes. I like thing, but I don't like thing.
Let's see how this selective curation plays out in different real-world contexts. We are going to run through some contextual role-play scripts right now, and we are going to analyze them as we go.
Let's start with a professional or class setting. We're going to create practice scenarios for professional settings like office break rooms. Imagine we are near the coffee machine. I will be the brand new employee, and I will use Paul's professional model from the text. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do this.
Hi there. I don't think we've met yet. My name is Paul. I'm originally from the United States, and I like to learn new things. I just joined the marketing team on the third floor.
Oh, hi, Paul. Nice to meet you. I'm Sarah from accounting. So you like learning new things. You'll have plenty to learn around here. Our systems are a mess.
Okay, let's break down what just happened there. It was simple, it was professional, but I intentionally threw out that fishing line about learning new things.
Right. If you had just said, I'm Paul from marketing, Sarah from accounting would have nothing to say except, cool, good luck.
And then silence while the coffee pours.
Exactly. But by adding that you like to learn new things, you gave her a hook. She used that hook to make a self-deprecating joke about the company's systems, and instantly, the ice is broken.
Now let's contrast that with a party setting, where the professional rigidity is gone and things are much more relaxed. I'm going to create a role-play script for meeting someone at a party. I will use Emily's more casual model this time. You start.
This music is great, isn't it? I haven't heard this song in years.
Yeah, it really is. The playlist is amazing tonight. Hi, I'm Emily, by the way. I love to paint, and honestly, I just love listening to loud music.
Nice to meet you, Emily. I'm John. So if you love loud music, what kind of bands do you usually listen to when you're painting?
Boom! Look at the architecture of that interaction. The bridge was successfully built. I volunteered 2 active verbs, paint and listen, and you, as John, walked right across that bridge with a perfectly targeted what kind of follow-up question.
Let's do another one because repetition is how this becomes muscle memory. Let's create an interactive scenario for practicing introductions at a coffee shop. You are sitting at a communal table, which is always an awkward situation.
Oh, the communal table. High anxiety. Okay, I'll initiate. Excuse me, is anyone sitting in this chair?
No, go right ahead. It's all yours.
Thanks so much. I'm host, by the way. I usually don't come to this specific cafe, but I actually live just down the street in that small brick apartment building.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
I'm expert. I actually live in the neighborhood too, just a few blocks over. Do you come here to study or just to get out of the apartment?
Yeah, I am a student. I study graphic design. I just needed some background noise to focus.
Let's dissect the mechanics of that. You use the location building block right away, the small brick apartment building. Why?
Because in a neighborhood coffee shop, geography is the most immediate shared context. By mentioning the specific small building, I proved I belong in the neighborhood, which instantly lowers your guard as a local.
Exactly. You established common ground geographically, and then, when prompted, you deployed the student persona perfectly. I am a student, I study graphic design. It was entirely seamless.
Let's do one more because this is a classic scenario that causes people a lot of stress. We need a practice dialogue for meeting a new neighbor for the very first time.
I will play the established neighbor. I'll be out on my front porch, watering some plants. You come up to me.
Hi there. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just moved in next door this weekend. I wanted to come over and introduce myself. My name is Host.
Oh, hi. Welcome to the neighborhood. It's so nice to finally meet you. I'm Expert. We were wondering who bought the place.
Nice to meet you, Expert. Yeah, I just moved here from a really big, loud city, so I'm honestly really enjoying how quiet and peaceful this town is already.
It is very peaceful here, thankfully. Do you live over there alone, or do you have family with you?
It's just me and my dog, Max. He's very friendly and super loyal, so you'll probably see us walking around the block a lot.
That's wonderful. I absolutely love dogs. Please let me know if you need any recommendations for the area, like the nearest vet or anything.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Actually, by the way, what kind of dog food do they sell at the local grocery store down the street?
That was a textbook execution of every principle we've discussed. Look at the layering you achieved there.
Let's track the layers. First, I anchored it with my name. Then, I used the environmental contrast we talked about, moving from a big, loud city to a quiet town. I used the quietness as a complement to the new environment.
Right, which makes the neighbor feel pride in their town. Then when I asked a mildly intrusive question about your family status, you deflected beautifully by introducing the pet. You described Max as friendly and loyal, signaling your own values, and then you finished by passing the baton with a highly relevant follow-up question about the grocery store.
It sounds so natural when you break it down into formulas, but we have to acknowledge reality. Even with all these scripts perfectly memorized, executing this in real life with a beating heart and sweaty palms can be incredibly nerve-wracking.
It's scary for everyone.
The source video actually gives some very practical, empathetic tips for overcoming that initial nervousness during introductions. Let's provide those tips for overcoming nervousness right now.
The primary tip the source emphasizes is keep it simple. When the adrenaline hits, our brains try to overcompensate by using big words or telling long, convoluted stories.
Right, we just start babbling.
Yes, do not overcomplicate your grammar or your narrative. The goal of an introduction is human connection, not a flawless grammatical performance.
If you stumble over a word, nobody cares. They're just evaluating your energy. Speaking of energy, body language is a massive component of this. The source explicitly points out that a smile is very important too, always.
Let's talk about using polite social cues to signal openness to strangers. We cannot overstate the biology of smiling.
Add some tips on using body language like smiling to appear more friendly.
Well, a genuine smile is a universal, cross-cultural, polite social cue. When you smile at a stranger, you are biologically signaling openness, non-aggression, and safety. Along with a smile, you want to maintain gentle, non-threatening eye contact and keep your arms uncrossed.
So no folding your arms over your chest like a bouncer.
Exactly. This physical, spatial openness guarantees that your verbal introduction will land much more warmly than if you were hunched over with your arms folded.
So how do we actually get good at this? You
Yeah.
can't just listen to us talk about it and expect to be a master networker tomorrow.
Mm.
We need to create a structured study plan to practice these introductions daily.
Yes. We suggest you literally practice these introductions daily. Stand in front of your bathroom mirror while you are brushing your teeth and run through your 5 key phrases out loud. Look at your own facial expressions. But eventually, you have to graduate from the mirror. You need to practice out loud with another human being.
Which is exactly why we want to highlight this partner activity script to practice with a friend. We call this interactive exercise ping pong.
I love ping pong.
The rule of ping pong is ruthlessly simple. One person shares a single fact about themselves, and the practice partner must immediately respond with either a follow-up question or a return volley of their own related fact. You cannot just say cool and stop.
Let's model the ping pong exercise right now so people can hear the rhythm of it. If you are listening, grab a friend later today, explain the rules, and try this for 3 minutes. It is harder than it sounds.
I will act as a practice partner for a mock introduction to a stranger, and I will serve the first fact. Are you ready?
Ready?
I have a cat.
What is her name?
Her name is Luna. She is very sleepy.
I don't have a cat, but I have a very active dog.
Oh, what kind of activities do you do with your dog?
We play soccer in the park on weekends.
I love sports. I don't play soccer, but I really like to watch it.
Do you hear that rhythm? Fact, question, fact, volley.
Yeah, it bounces back and forth perfectly.
That ping pong rhythm is the literal heartbeat of a good conversation. It proves that an introduction is not a monologue where you perform for an audience. It is a shared creation where 2 people build a bridge together, plank by plank.
So as we pull all of these threads together and summarize our journey today, I want you to remember that the phrase, "tell me about yourself," is not a trap designed to expose how boring you are. It is the most generous invitation in the world for a new friendship or opportunity to begin.
Let's look at how far we've come. We started with the humble hello, analyzing the phonetic rhythm and the biological imperative of a smile. We anchored our physical existence by claiming acoustic space with our name and describing our sensory environment.
Right, and then we carefully layered in our internal identity through our occupation or our studies, learning how to build conversational bridges instead of throwing nouns like bricks.
And we brought vivid color to the portrait by talking about our family and our pets, using them as safe vessels to broadcast our deepest values.
We threw out those conversational fishing lines by sharing our specific hobbies and our favorite foods, using descriptive clauses to lighten the cognitive load on the listener.
And finally, we added that crucial 3-dimensional texture and contrast by politely sharing our mild dislikes, bonding over the profound evolutionary psychology of the prosocial complaint.
It is a wildly comprehensive toolkit hidden inside a seemingly simple conversation between Emily and Paul.
It really is. But before we wrap up, I want to leave everyone listening with a final, slightly deeper, almost philosophical thought to mull over.
Ooh, lay it on us.
Throughout this entire deep dive, the source material has subtly reminded us of one immense power we hold. We get to choose which pieces of our identity to share in an introduction.
All right, we are the ones curating the menu. We aren't forced to share anything we don't want to.
Exactly. But let's take that one step further. If an introduction is just a curated list of our favorite things, our values, our mild dislikes, and our current circumstances, how does consciously practicing these simple sentences actually change the way we view our own life story?
Wait, you mean the way we introduce ourselves changes how we see ourselves?
Yes. Think about it. Are we, in a very real psychological way, writing the adventure book of our own lives every single time we introduce ourselves to a stranger? When you actively choose to say out loud, I'm an art student who loves the color green, or I live in a small, cozy apartment, you are not just informing the listener. You are actively reinforcing that specific, chosen identity to your own brain. You are validating your own existence.
Wow. That completely shifts the paradigm. It's not just a menu you are printing for someone else. You are reading the menu to yourself every single time, reminding yourself of who you are and what you care about. So the next time you walk into a room and someone hands you that massive, terrifying, open-ended prompt and says, tell me about yourself, do not freeze, do not panic, you know the mechanics now. Pick up the brush, start with a simple melodic greeting, spell your name if you have to, and just paint one little corner of the canvas.
We want to thank you all so much for joining us on this deep dive into the surprisingly profound mechanics of human introduction.
Stay safe out there. Keep practicing those phrases out loud in the mirror. Remember to build bridges instead of throwing bricks. And most importantly, go out and introduce yourself to the world. We will catch you next time.